Hey everybody. So if you've watched my videos in the past or if you've read my articles on Forbes, you know that I'm a big fan of LG smartphones. So the reason I like LG phones, I mean there are multiple reasons. I like that they really innovate with design. Like the LG G3 was actually one of the very first phones to move all the buttons from the front and just have a screen on the front with slim bezels. Nowadays every smartphone looks like that, but the LG G3 did that in like 2014 when all these other phones had huge clunky home buttons on the front. So LG's always been innovating, and also I really like the phones because I like the wide angle lens. Now a wide angle lens gives you a wider field of vision, so that's useful when you're traveling, especially in like Europe because there's a lot of beautiful architecture. So a lot of times with a normal camera lens, the focal length is a little bit too cropped in. So if you want to get a picture of like say a giant church in Italy, you have to back up, maybe sometimes go across the street just to get the whole building. With an LG device, you're able to capture the whole building without really backing up that far. But more importantly, a wide angle lens is useful for me in Hong Kong because some of you guys may already know this, but Hong Kong is among one of the most packed, tight places in the world. Rent here is ridiculous. Hong Kong has to be top 2 or 3 most expensive rent in the world. So right now, this video you're watching right now, it looks like there's a little bit of space around me, right? But actually, I'm shooting this in my tiny ass bedroom that you can see right now. There's no space. The camera, it's like 3 feet from my face because there's not enough room for me to put the camera further back. So I'm shooting this using a wide angle lens, and it makes a huge difference because without the wide angle lens, videos will look like this. Now all of a sudden everything is tighter, right? And the camera's probably too close to my face, and trust me, ain't nobody want to look at this face that closely. Even my girlfriend don't want to look at me that closely. So that's why the wide angle is needed, because Hong Kong is so freaking small. I don't have enough space to put a camera further away. Okay, so back to the wide. So the reason I'm making this video is because I just got today the LG V40. This is the final review unit. The video I made about a month ago, that was the pre-production unit. So this one just came to me from Korea. Thanks Haewon, thanks Emma. In a crazy ass wooden box that LG Korea likes to send out the phones in. Took me like 5 minutes and a freaking hammer to open the box. Made a mess in the hallway again, but not complaining. So this phone has a wide angle lens, and usually when I get an LG phone, I immediately make it either my daily driver, or if not my daily driver, at least my second phone, precisely because I really like that wide angle lens. I play in a band, and our band room is really small, and I almost always shoot our band with the wide angle lens of the LG phones because other phones just cannot get the full band because the room is so small. But this year, Huawei has jumped in the fray and introduced a wide angle lens of its own. So now there are 2 phones out on the market with wide angle lenses, so I figure might as well do a good old fashioned photo and video shootout. Okay, let's talk specs really quick. So the wide angle lens on the LG V40, which is right there in the middle, it's a 16 megapixel lens with an f1.9 aperture. Meanwhile, the Huawei Mate 20 Pro's wide angle lens, which is right here in the bottom right, it's a 20 megapixel lens, but it only has an f2.2 aperture. So in theory, the Huawei Mate 20 Pro's photos will come out larger because it's 20 megapixel, but the LG V40's lens should be able to pull in more lighting. But you know, Huawei does a lot of post-processing and uses the other lens to bring in more light, so we'll see the results later. Now we look at the camera app. So on the LG V40, you have a little icon right here with 3 trees that you just tap on to bring up the wide angle lens. I think it's very intuitive, and I also really like that you get a preview of all 3 lenses, especially the wide and the main, right here in the viewfinder without needing to switch to the lens yet. Now the Huawei Mate 20 Pro takes a slightly different approach. There is no immediate icon to tap to go to the wide angle. Instead, if you just tap on this icon, you have to press on it 3 times to get to the wide angle lens because it's signified by how many times zoom. So 3, 5, and then 0.6. So instead, the fastest way to get to the wide angle lens on the Huawei Mate 20 Pro is to hold on the button and pull to the right. Like you basically, it's kind of a natural movement though, you're pulling like wider to go 0.6. Okay, let's look at some photo samples. So this very first image, right off the bat, you see that both cameras have almost the same degrees of field of vision. LG says the V40 has 107, and it's safe to say the Huawei Mate 20 Pro also has 107. So both images are very strong with very vibrant colors. And I'm really happy to see that both cameras can handle the challenging situation of having the sun shining right at you both cameras handled it like a champ. Dynamic range on both is strong. Now if you zoom into the middle of the photo, you'll see that both photos lose a little bit of details, a little bit soft, but that's to be expected with a wide angle lens inside a device as thin as a smartphone. You just have to sacrifice a little bit of quality basically. The main lens will capture a much sharper image. Now moving to the corners of the picture, I'm really impressed that Huawei has already solved the edge distortion issue that used to be a problem in previous LG phones. LG recently fixed that with the G7. Before that, on the G5 or the G6, if you take a wide angle lens, the corners of the photos are a little bit distorted with that fisheye effect. So I'm very happy to see that the Mate 20 Pro, just like the V40, has almost no distortion around the corners or on the edges of the photo. So you have good lighting, like in the day, photos are going to come out really sharp, shutter speed is fast too, and even when I crop into the photo to the sides, you'll see that there's almost no loss of detail. Both cameras are very strong considering this is the wide angle lens. Now as mentioned, because the LG V40's wide angle lens has a lower aperture of f1.9 to the Mate 20 Pro's f2.2, so that means the V40 just inherently can pull in more lighting. Now this is only when you're using the wide angle lens. If you go back to the main camera, the Huawei Mate 20 Pro is a better low light camera. Now of course, Huawei has a trick up its sleeve with the night mode. Now this uses AI to allow you to take a long exposure shot without needing a tripod, and the result is a much brighter image. Now LG has its own night mode too, but as you can see here, it doesn't work as well. So if you are to turn on night mode in both phones, then Huawei wins. So now moving indoors under fluorescent lighting, I think Huawei Mate 20 Pro produced a more vibrant image. I think it's because Huawei uses software algorithm to really pump up contrast on images, while LG just relies on hardware. Now another problem with the V40 camera, and this was something Mr. Mobile first noticed in the review, is that the LG V40's wide angle and standard camera, they take images that look very different in terms of lighting and temperature. I mean, you look at these two images right here, they almost look like they were at different times of the day, when no, I took them back to back. Now you look at the same image on the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, lens capture an image that are more consistent. So video recording was one of the weaknesses of the Huawei P20 Pro, and although the Mate 20 Pro improves on that a lot, it still seems to be the case. So now both of these clips are shot with the wide angle lens at 1080p. So you look at the V40 footage, is a little bit smoother, colors are punchier, and the sky is not as blown out. You look at the Huawei Mate 20 Pro footage, the sky is just not as blue as the V40 footage, and colors are just a little bit more dull, right? But a V40 having a lower aperture sometimes can backfire in low light situations because the V40 has a slower shutter speed. So you look at the cars on the V40 image, it's blurry. On the Mate 20 Pro, it's still relatively clear even though cars are moving in both photos because the V40 shutter speed is slower. So choosing a winner right here, it's very tough. Now keep in mind I'm only talking about the wide angle lens in this video. Both cameras are excellent and very close. I think Huawei deserves a lot of credit for getting the wide angle lens so right the first time around. It took LG like 3 tries to get there. So anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna have more videos coming up soon, including the Honor Magic 2.